friends, it's Rainy. Welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to be doing the We Ain't Getting Any Younger book tag. This tag was originally created by Codex Cantina for Crypto's 40th birthday, and I am celebrating a birthday today too. I'm not quite 40 yet, but we're inching there. Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space tagged me in this tag a couple weeks ago, and I thought, hey, I might as well do it for my birthday, right? So, without further ado, let's just move on to the questions, shall we? Okay, I'm going to be reading these questions off on my little notepad here because they are very long. So, if you see me looking off the screen, that is why. While it's proven that too many birthdays can kill you, the amount of cake we can eat is still under debate. Name the most recent book that gave you a sugar/book high. And for this one, I am going to go with Wine and Punishment by Sarah Fox. I read this a couple weeks ago, and it actually kind of took me a long time to get through, but I think it was just the mood I was in. But I love cozy mysteries. This one was just very atmospheric, I guess would be a word that you could use. Like just the town and the bar that it takes place in, and the people were just very fun and relatable, I thought. So I really enjoyed this, and it was one that I had been looking forward to reading for a long time. So after I was done with it, I was like, I just love this book so much. I need to read them all, which there are only 2 right now, and I think the third one's coming out this year. So I should be able to keep up with it, hopefully. Question 2. Sometimes we get older and wider. Yes. Instead of older and wiser. Name the longest book you've ever read. And if you have been with me this year, you know that the longest book I've ever read is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Look at this. It is, let's see, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,200 pages. This was actually really good. I enjoyed it. I buddy read it with my friend Tara at Buzzword Books, and we surprisingly really enjoyed it. There were, of course, sections that we feel could have been left out, but overall, I was surprised at how good of a read it was. Question 3 is, the best part about pictures is that they're always a younger version of you. Good point. Name a book that you enjoyed more the first time you read it than the second. And when I give you the answer to this question, you might be a little confused, because if you've been with me, you know this is one of my favorite books. But when I reread it for like the second or maybe even third time in 2018, I just found it a little bit more of a struggle to get through. I still really enjoyed it, but it might have dropped out of the running of my favorite book of all time. And that is Passage to India by E.M. Forster. I still really love this book, but my current mood is more, I like more fast-paced things, and this was a lot of description of the nature of the visuals of India, and social commentary, definitely. So it was just a little bit more of a slog to get through than I remembered it being from when I first read it in college. When I read it in college, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful book I've ever read. and it is very beautiful, but the second time around, I was like, and it could have just been too that I'm like, I've already read this, so it was just not as compelling to pick up. I don't know, but I still plan on rereading this again because I still really love it. Question 4. As we get older, you must learn to never skip a bathroom break before jumping in a long car ride. I haven't gotten there yet, thank goodness. Name a book you read in a very few sittings. And for me, this is another cozy mystery series, and that is the Port Danby series by London Lovett. I can read these in usually one sitting, maybe 2. They are very, very slim reads. They're more like novellas than anything else, but they're just like candy to me. When I need just like a short, fun mystery read, I turn to these. And she has a few other series that I haven't started yet because I kind of wanted to get up to date on the Port Danby series first. So I have a few more to get through. But yeah, I just really love this series, and the characters are just so fun. The protagonist of this has a pet crow. Like, that's a weird cozy companion if if you're into cozy mysteries, but it's really awesome too. So yeah, I can basically sit down and read this in a couple of hours. Question 5. Don't let old age get you down, because it's harder to get you back up again these days. Sometimes, yes. Lots of things creak. Name a book you had to put down and why. And for this one, I picked Eden's Outcasts by John Matheson. I think it was John. And this was the first book that we read for the Louisa May 2020 read along. And while it was very interesting, it was very, very dense. And I think just at the time, I I didn't have a broad interest in Louisa May Alcott, and so I just found myself really not caring that much about her. But I think now that I have read a lot of Louisa May's books, I think at the end of the readathon, I'm going to pick that book back up again and try to reread it with more knowledge of Louisa May Alcott now, and kind of her outlook on life, and because we're reading some of her fiction and some of her nonfiction, and I think the nonfiction that she's written will help me to better grasp what was being talked about in this biography of her. So yeah, I ended up reading maybe like a third of that book, and I just like had to put it down for other things. Question 6. Age isn't how long you've been alive, it's how many lives you've lived. What book genre have you been wanting to try out of your comfort zone? And I think that for this, I would probably pick romance. It's not that far out of my comfort zone, really, but I mean, certain aspects of it definitely are. I would probably tend to go more towards the less explicit romances, and I have read a couple that, there's maybe a little bit of sexy times, but they're not like too scandalous. And so there are some ones that I have heard about recently from channels that I follow that are pretty romance heavy, that do look pretty interesting. So I think I would like to try a few more of those. And also the other one is, I don't think I want to go outside of my genre or out of my comfort zone for this, but I have kind of wanted to read Bird Box by Malerman. Is that his name? I don't know why, because this is considered horror, but and I don't do anything in a horror genre. I don't watch the movies. I don't read the books. But for some reason, this one really seems interesting to me. Question 7. Life gets worse the older you get. No comment. Luckily, you don't have much left. Okay. Name a book that slowly turned sour for you, but you finished it anyway. Were you glad you stuck it out? That book for me is Mary B. by Catherine J. Chen. I really was enjoying this retelling of Pride and Prejudice at first. The section that just talked about the events of Pride and Prejudice from Mary Bennett's perspective was really interesting to me. However, it went downhill to the point where I was so angry by the end of it. I I kept I kept reading it because I kept hoping that it would turn around and that something good would happen. It didn't. While I am glad that I read it because I know what I'm talking about and I didn't like just chuck it across the room and not finish it and not know how it ended, I definitely unhauled it and I will never recommend it to anybody. Question 8. Peer pressure seems to decrease as you get older. Where did all your friends go? Name a book that you checked out because of peer pressure. Were you happy to have tried it? For me, that is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I didn't 100% pick it up because it was, peer pressured. I had read A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Bachman earlier in the year and really loved it, and had heard a lot about Beartown and how good it was. And even though the subject matter did not interest me at all, I had heard so much about it that I thought, yeah, I just need to pick it up. And then a friend of mine was trying to get a book club started, and so that was the first book she picked. So I read it for that, and I have the very unpopular opinion that I did not like this book. And I should have known just based on what everybody was saying about it, even though everybody else that I heard talk about it seemed to love it. I knew in my heart of hearts that I was not going to enjoy this book. And I should have just gone with that. I won't be moving on to the sequel to that book at all. I have no interest now. The last prompt is friends don't let friends get old alone. So tag some people. And I don't really know who hasn't done this tag yet. I do know that Tia from Tia and All the Books has a birthday in May. So I'm going to tag her. So I'm just going to tag her specifically since I know her birthday is in May. But other than that, just if you haven't done this tag and you want to, and especially if you have a birthday in May, you should definitely do this tag. So anyway, friends, I hope you enjoyed this tag. And go check out Codex Cantina and Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space. And I will link both of their channels down below. And until my next video, bye, friends.